Hello and welcome to Initiative Africa. I'm Asha Sampet and I'm excited to have you join us for this week's edition where we highlight Africa's dynamic progress through innovative solutions and impactful initiatives. For the first episode of our new season, we are turning our attention to Asia and the remarkable growing relationship between Africa and China. We'll explore this with our special guest. But first, let's dive into today's show with our top stories. He's a man of exceptional resilience, having left his home country of Zimbabwe at a young age. Innocent Mutanga found himself in an unfamiliar land, Hong Kong. Battling through challenges to survive and study, he succeeded. Today, he is dedicated to improving Africa's visibility and understanding in Asia. He's our guest for today's show.
When I came to Asia, in particular Hong Kong and other parts of Asia, I figured out there is this tendency to define Africa as something less. Africa as something dangerous, or African is something dangerous, African is something needy.
In a musical twist, Benin may have found its answer to Nigeria's Afrobeat with the rise of Afrotchink, a vibrant national urban music genre. The genre is gaining momentum thanks to the talent of singer Rabbi Slow.
Now, he spiced it even more. He added other ingredients to make it available to an international audience.
Meanwhile, the China-Africa business relationship continues to grow, with more young people pursuing Chinese language studies to enhance their opportunities in the workforce and facilitate their integration into this expanding sector.
The reason that motivated me to choose the Chinese language is that I noticed there are many job opportunities with China.
It's both the return of a prodigal son and the birth of a new musical genre. Rabbi Slow, singer, songwriter and composer, experienced meteoric success at a young age before going into exile in the United States for 20 years. Now, he's back in Benin, bringing with him a fresh ambition to introduce the world to Afrochink, a distinctive national urban music style that blends traditional sounds with contemporary rhythms. Didier Sogba met the artist and explored his music in Cotonou. Let's take a look.
Rabbi Slow, whose real name is Wilfred Huwanu, one of the driving forces behind somehow modernizing traditional Beninese music, Chingumin. The artist, who spent nearly 20 years in the United States, has developed a new musical concept, Afrochink, a clever blend of traditional Beninese and modern music. In fact, Rabbi has been immersed in music since his childhood.
I'm one of the people who started what's called Afro in Africa, but I thought I could always recreate history even if it means that people won't believe at the beginning, as they have always known something else. But the objective is clear. It's to create music with a Beninese identity, whether they like it or not. As long as we have this musical breath, Afro-Chik can be defined as Chigomai, the traditional music of Benin mixed with jazz, blues and R&B.
Chingumin is typically Beninese rhythm still played throughout the country during traditional gatherings.
The origin of the Chigomai rhythm is from Savalou in the 41 hills in Benin. Our ancestors used to play this rhythm at funeral ceremonies, wedding and traditional christenings. To play Chigomai, you need the gotak, gourds, sticks, and a bucket and water. The first famous artist was Adiso before Alokon made it popular. Tohan Stan was the first to modernize Chigomai with the chink system. He went on to enjoy some international success. Today it's Rabbi Slow. What he's doing should be encouraged.
To help Afrotchink become Benin's signature music, the Beninese government has set up a committee of experts of artists, arrangers and sound engineers.
We're talking about political will, the minister and culture, and the government that has decided that Afrotchink will be Benin's identity music will have to follow suit. We'll have to work towards that, and in any case, Benin is a sound reservoir. We have so many rhythms, so much music, but we still have to concentrate on one piece of music and start by making the success of that music and exporting it, and then we'll see.
One thing is sure, this musical identity honed by Rabbi Slow after many years of studying music in New York is gaining more and more fans among Beninese artists.
I've realized that the Chigama music can be exported.
C'est une musique qui est exportable. Le Tchingoumen comme le Goumbé, c'est des musiques qui sont
Chigama, like Goumbé, is music that's easy to dance on, and that's what made Afrotchink more appealing to me when it came along.
Here in Cotonou, Rabbi Slow is making the headlines in Benin. Since his return to Benin, he has been working with his team to bring to his fans a new album spiced up with Afrotchink.
It's good music. It's music that's been inspired by Chigaman since the beginning. And now he spiced it even more. He added other ingredients to make it available to an international audience. Yes, Afrotchink can make its mark internationally if it's promoted properly. Many people think of Afrotchink music in terms of rhythm, but it's not just the rhythm. To support the rhythm, to highlight it, you need the choreography. Afrotchink music is also about the look, the way you dress, so it's the whole that gives our beautiful Benin its new musical and cultural identity.
In the opinion of everyone here, it's an obvious success and the beginning of a great adventure for the renewal of Benin's cultural industry and identity.
He arrived in Hong Kong as a penniless exilee, but today, Innocent Mutanga is a successful banker at a leading private financial institution. From his journey, he developed a deep desire to bridge the gap between Africa and Asia. To this end, he founded the Africa Centre Hong Kong with a goal of supporting foreign business people while also assisting the community of over 10,000 African expatriates. Innocent shared his experiences and the challenges he faces with Laurent Sustras. Innocent Mutanga, hello and welcome to Initiative Africa. Can you tell us about the African Centre in Hong Kong? What inspired you to establish this organisation and what are its key goals?
Yes, the Africa Centre Hong Kong was founded in 2019 with the goal of rebranding Blackness or rebranding Africa. So we do a number of activities, to meet that goal. One related to cultural exchange programs, where we present African culture through experiential, learning, and also through providing African solutions to address local issues.
You offer a wide range of cultural immersion experiences from schools to corporations and NGOs. What led you to recognize the need for better understanding of Africa and Hong Kong? How did you identify this gap?
Yeah, so when I came to Asia, in particular Hong Kong and other parts of Asia, I figured out there is this tendency to define Africa as something less. Africa as something dangerous, or African is something dangerous, African is something needy. There weren't so much of the positive or accurate representations of Africa. So to me, it showed that this is a branding issue that needs to be addressed. And then on the other hand, I figured out there has been a hegemonic shift from Western dominated world to, multipolar kind of world, where East Asia, in particular China, is kind of taking a big part of that. And then I figured out, I think it's the timing, when the sheriff is changing, it's a good time to make sure the African story is actually told by Africans. The past 400 years, when the Western world was dominating the world, the African story has not been enough. The African experiences have been horrible. Slavery, colonialism, you said. So I figured out the best time is now, given that there's that transition happening. People only listen to you before they become powerful. When people become powerful, they don't listen. So there was that timing factor that I needed to really do it now.
Since founding the African Centre in 2019, what kind of feedback have you received from the public? How do you think the cultural exchanges you've facilitated have impacted people's perceptions of Africa?
So there has been, let me give you an example. Like during COVID, a lot of people in Hong Kong and other parts of Asia were struggling in terms of just being resilient, being able to navigate. It's either as people, their own well-being, or as companies. So the well-being of the company, so we started to see a lot of people taking interest in Africa because Africa came out as this place of resilience. That was part of the rebranding story that we've been doing. We've been rebranding Africa like, don't take these negative experiences that African face as something that means we are doomed. It actually means we have something in our system to navigate this uncertain world. So there was a lot of that interest, and now we're seeing a lot more interest from young people, who are looking to Africa and say, look, I've seen you guys smile. I've seen you guys, no matter what it is, I see you guys seem to continue to push through. And I want to learn that. I want to have that as part of who they are. So there's that very soft ones and very hard things that we're seeing that people actually are getting more interested, when it comes to Africa. And also as a way to understand the world better. Because gone are the days where you only needed to understand what the Western canon says and also maybe what your local canon says. The world is a lot more globalized now. It's a lot more interconnected. So a lot of people are actually realizing that they can make decisions, whether it's investment, without having a correct picture of the world. Now you get punished for being wrong. When you're making business, if you have a wrong understanding of the world, then you are miscalculating the risks. If you're miscalculating the risks, then you are going to burn. So there's been a lot more, whether from young people to people even on into like entrepreneurs, investments, who are really showing interest in, to be able to diversify also their views as well.
What about the African community here? Can you give us an overview of the African diaspora in Hong Kong?
Yes.
How do you support them and what specific programs do you offer to meet their needs?
Okay, so in Hong Kong, when it comes to the African community, you are looking at statistics by the government, it's about 5,000 people, but our own numbers, our own estimations, about 10K and above. So for that population, it's been a lot more on the aspiration side. That's what we support. I'm a big fan of aspirations. I'm a big fan of education. So I try to make sure there's a connection between aspirations and education. So we do it in 3 ways. One, for young people who are students, we look to do mentorship programs for them, whether they're on scholarships, and then it was just like, career guidance going into like succeeding in their own education, in their education career as well. And then for those who are looking for jobs, those who are looking for careers as well, those are some of them to try to support as well. And then be able to like, let's organize some activities where we bring in different firms, and learn about the industry and be able to get the network that you would find. Was a big jump in the gap. There is a lot network gap, where people just don't have the connection to get to into this other community, get to these job ones. And then the last part, which has been quite a big favorite of mine, is the entrepreneurs. So I believe that when it comes to being in a new place, especially as a minority, coming from the global south, you have 2 ways to actually make it in life. One is either you get in the job, but you become top of that particular industry, or you start your own company. Start your own company, and I think that much works better because that can also systematically addresses any of the issues around poverty as well. Because you can hire other people as well. So we're doing a lot more, entrepreneurs, where there's training, network, connecting, and just finding investors for these for entrepreneurs as well. So this is something we're putting a lot more effort in, and we hope to see more as it comes.
Are you seeking to boost your business in Africa and Europe?
Increase your visibility with business frequency thanks to our network of national television channels in more than 40 countries. Every week, more than 100 broadcasts across Africa, the Indian Ocean and Europe. Don't miss this unique opportunity. Contact us now and put your brand into the spotlight. Welcome to the second part of our show. We'll return to our guest Innocent Mutanga later in the program, but first let's take you to a Chinese language school in Africa. As trade between China and our continent continues to expand, this growing economic partnership is creating new job opportunities. To take full advantage of them, young people are increasingly eager to learn Chinese. We visited a class of Beninese students, all determined to master the language. Take a look. With an estimated trade volume of over $60 billion annually, China is Benin's third largest trading partner. In this context, speaking Mandarin is a great asset. Created in 2019 and set up on the campus of Abomi Kalavi, the Confucius Institute offers a degree in translation and interpretation in the Chinese language. The students of this school are the most sought after on the job market in Africa.
Apart from my studies, I'm also a translator-interpreter for Chinese. The reason that motivated me to choose the Chinese language is that I noticed there are many job opportunities with China. If you are an intern and haven't finished your studies, you can earn up to 150,000 CFA francs a month. If you have a degree in the Chinese language, your salary can rise from 250,000 to 500,000 CFA francs.
While the guaranteed minimum wage in Benin is 52,000 CFA francs, this is a great opportunity for students like Parfait. Other reasons why this training course is so successful among young people in the economic capital are quite diverse. My mother has a big wholesale business. She's a trader. And by learning the Chinese language, I can help my mom to develop this business. According to a report published in Beijing in 2021 by the China-Africa Business Council, Chinese private companies account for about 70% of investments in Africa. China carries out more than a third of the infrastructure projects on the continent. So, to facilitate exchanges between Chinese workers and employers, interpreters are much needed.
When we teach our students the Chinese language, they also learn the culture, the behavior, attitude, and all of that. It allows us to create an honest relationship with the Chinese. We have students trained at the Institute who are not in Benin, but who work with the Chinese in countries like Angola, Côte d'Ivoire, and Togo. So the job market today for someone learning Chinese is promising. Our students also serve as tour guides for Chinese tourists. For example, a Chinese community wanted to visit the royal treasures of the Presidency Palace. It was our students who accompanied them. In the field of tourism, there are great opportunities for these students.
Cuisina is one of the leading companies of furniture and home furnishing in the West African sub-region. An expertise learned in China and an acute knowledge of Chinese, the young kitchen designer Muamin Adechokan, the CEO of Cuisina, has indeed found an innovative solution. He manufactures kitchen furniture with fully waterproof panels that meet the standards of African kitchens. To do this, he imports all the materials from China without intermediaries.
La Chine m'a appris la langue.
China taught me the language, which is the key to success and of what I am today. Chinese people are special. It doesn't matter if the Chinese understand English or French well. You automatically create a barrier if you don't speak their language. I returned to Africa and set up my industry, Cuisina.
After traveling through several African countries, this Chinese representative is the head of the subsidiary of Jiangxi Water and Hydropower Construction, settled in Benin in 2017. This company specializes in building and construction, public works, and hydroelectricity. Liu Zhaoping is proud of his collaboration with the Beninese workers.
It is very important. These workers who have studied the Chinese language allow us to better trade between Beninese and Chinese communities.
With the development of trade, the prospects of this cooperation still have a bright future ahead and making Africa a very attractive playing field in the eyes of Beijing.
How does one survive as a refugee after leaving everything behind? For innocent Mutanga, the answer lay in education. He immersed himself in his studies, using them as a foundation to rebuild his life and overcome discrimination. He shares more about his journey in the second part of his interview. Let's listen to him.
Your personal story is truly inspiring. As a young refugee from Zimbabwe, you faced significant adversity. Can you share how your journey unfolded?
Yeah, I came to Hong Kong in 2013, initially as a refugee, coming here seeking asylum. The drivers for that was that I was involved in social activism work in Zimbabwe, which was kind of bordering between education, politics, and economics. So the politics aspect and the economics aspect of the work that I was doing wasn't going well with the government then. I know things have changed since then, so after threats, beatings, kidnaps, so I ended up leaving the country, and then I just decided to go to a place that I was visa free and also where I had some familiarity, and I know Jackie Chan, so I was just figuring out Hong Kong, Jackie Chan, visa free. Nothing could have been much perfect like that. So then I ended up in Hong Kong. When I came in, I slept rough, homeless, but just we try to push, and then I ended up going to university. My solution to things is that education. I'm a very passionate guy about education. My solutions to my own breakthroughs in every stage of my life has always been education. So that's the only solution I knew. So I decided to go to university, study here, graduated in anthropology at the Chinese University of Hong Kong. And then I've since started the Africa Center, also do investment banking as well.
Your journey is nothing short of extraordinary, starting as a young refugee, feeling marginalized and even sleeping rough, to later gaining acceptance in a top university. How did you maintain the strength and determination to turn your circumstances around?
Yeah, I think in all that, I think one of the common things about that was just me just being more persistent, the resilience, the determination, because people weren't treating me as a desirable person initially. You go to a place and then you try to present like, hey, I want to study, like, oh, do you know how to write? You see all those things, but I knew what I was going after. I don't let those things put me down. If anything, I decided to adopt a mentality where I say, for every form of discrimination that I get, I'm going to change that into fuel and make it into a motivation for me to even succeed further. I remember I was talking to another group of young people. It's like, the more each discrimination you give me, it makes me more rich. I said rich because I know Hong Kong, people care a lot more about their finances. So I was like, I'm going to play into that as well. So I think it was just a lot more about like, how do I push through? and then also studying the system. On more practical things that I had to do was to study the system. Hong Kong is a very bureaucratic place, so things don't just move, goalposts don't just move again and again. It's like you study it and then you push into it. So I studied the system, studied the culture, studied the people. That's what I spent doing, mostly in the libraries, reading books, talking to historians, speaking to anthropologists, talking to whoever, and going to classes, sitting in the classes, just learning about the people and the culture, and then trying to find my way. And then at the end of the time, I was like, you know what? I think I know what it takes to succeed in this place. And I'm like, this is my place, and I'm gonna succeed in this place. So that's kind of like the approach I took.
Since arriving in Hong Kong in 2013, you've experienced and witnessed discrimination. How would you assess the progress in understanding between African and Asian communities, and what more can be done to bridge the gap?
So when I came in 2013, Africa, Asia, or China, Africa relations were largely in a government, kind of like government to government interaction. There was not so much people to people interactions. If there were people to people interactions, they were really with misunderstandings, stereotypes, etc. So at least from a Hong Kong context, which is where we are starting. So from a bunch of stereotypes, where people, I remember initially people like, they see a black person, they're gonna be, dragging your hair, close your nose, asking all these weird things. People run away, but sentiments have been changing. Significantly. Even if you go on the internet, there's our own versions of Twitter here, where people actually say all these kind of things. You can see, we track those sentiments, every summer, and there have been quite an improvement in how people, think or feel about black people. There's less and less on the danger side. There's less and less on these poor people. There's more and more on more positive, aspects of being, creative. You're seeing these are creative people, the resilient people. These are, what are some of the elements? So you kind of see all those kind of things that are coming in more and more. I think when I was new, any mother or father sees me with their daughter, they're already scared. Oh my goodness, what's going to happen to my daughter? But now, you get parents like, oh, your friend, want to invite your friend over, like they are actually very different. It's a lot more differences in that way, in terms of sentiments.
With the growing economic ties between China and Africa, do you see this relationship as purely economic, or is there a deeper cultural and political dimension? How did this evolving dynamic inspire you, and how do you position yourself within this context?
For me, in terms of positioning myself in the whole China-Africa relations, I felt like, look, I think my best part is the cross between culture and business. I'm a Bantu, which is like the southern part of the continent and the eastern part of the continent. There are ways that we do things. They whether it's the belief in clan names or totems, and how that shapes how we do things. So we do a lot of workshops, even here in Hong Kong, around cross between culture and business. We bring in a lot of people who want to do business in Africa. People want to do business. Africans want to do business within the Greater China area. And then I was like, look, you could think about all the business you could think, but if you don't understand the culture, you don't get far. So my part has always been on that for now. That's just been the focus. Like, what's the culture? I'm an anthropologist at the end of the day. I love culture and I love business. So that's what we're trying to smoothen those through those understanding. Because sometimes you see people like, oh, why is this like this? I'm like, yeah, because you don't understand that those people are related by totems. Therefore, they are more likely to treat the other one favorably and less, So when you're coming in the southern part of Africa, let's say it's a Chinese or it's a European, you get there, you got to understand, like, okay, what is the kinship there? How they relate. It's not always blood, there's a lot more complexity to it. So I try to demystify a lot of that. So that's been my play so far.
That's a wrap for today's edition of Initiative Africa. You can find the full interview with Innocent Mutanga along with all our episodes on our website africaonair.com, and of course don't forget to follow us on all our social media channels, like, share and comment using the hashtag Initiative Africa. Join us next week, same time, same channel, for a brand new edition of Business Africa. Have a wonderful week, and until then, goodbye.